Power Platform Governance for SMBs, Stop Technical Debt Early. So, Power Platform Governance for SMBs. It's something a lot of people ask about, and today we're going to walk through it step by step. Let's talk about moving on to what Power Platform Governance for SMBs actually means. Power Platform Governance is the set of policies, processes, and tools that control how Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Copilot Studio are built, deployed, and maintained across your organization. For enterprise companies, this usually means a full center of excellence team with dedicated staff. For an SMB with 20 to 200 employees, it means something more realistic: a documented environment strategy, a few enforced data policies, and clear rules for who can build what and where. Most SMBs skip governance early because it feels like a barrier to the speed that makes low-code attractive. That logic makes sense for the first 3 months. After 12 months, it tends to collapse under its own weight as orphan apps, mystery flows, and surprise licensing charges start accumulating. Let's talk about now where Power Platform technical debt actually starts. Most Power Platform technical debt doesn't come from bad developers. It comes from good intentions with no guardrails. Here's what the accumulation typically looks like in practice. This pattern is common enough that Gartner research on low-code platform risks consistently flags ungoverned citizen development as the top risk in low-code adoption for organizations under 500 employees. Next up, now, the real cost of poor Power Platform governance. Numbers make this concrete. Consider a 50-person company that has been on Power Platform for 18 months with no governance in place. The 80 to 120-hour cleanup estimate is conservative. Some companies spend closer to 200 hours untangling environments before they can confidently deploy a new business-critical app. That's the hidden tax of skipping governance at the start. Next up, setting up your environment strategy for Power Platform governance. Environment strategy is where Power Platform governance for SMBs should start. Get this right first and everything else is easier to enforce. Every Microsoft tenant gets a default environment automatically, and it's wide open. Any licensed user can create apps and flows there. There's no separation between what's being tested and what's running production processes. If a developer accidentally connects a flow to live customer data during testing, there's nothing stopping it. The fix is straightforward but requires someone to actually implement it. Next up, let's talk about Power Platform governance best practices for SMBs. With environments sorted, the next layer is policies and tooling. These are the practices that make governance an ongoing standard rather than a one-time cleanup project. Data loss prevention policies control which connectors can be used together and how data flows between them. They're configured at the tenant or environment level in the Power Platform Admin Center. For an SMB, start with 2 tiers. Next up, managing citizen developers without losing control. Citizen developer governance is where the human side of Power Platform administration gets real. The goal isn't to stop people from building. It's to channel that energy into work that's maintainable and secure. The approach that works best in practice. Train before you grant access. A 90-minute internal session covering environment rules, naming conventions, and which connectors need approval prevents about 70% of governance problems. Most citizen developers aren't trying to break anything. They just don't know the rules exist. Now, let's talk about the Power Platform Center of Excellence Starter Kit. The Power Platform COE Starter Kit is Microsoft's free governance toolkit. It's a collection of Power Apps, flows, and dashboards that give you visibility across your entire tenant without building anything custom. For SMBs, the most useful components are: the honest trade-off: the COE Starter Kit takes 4 to 8 hours to set up properly, and it requires at least one person comfortable in Power Platform to maintain it. For a company under 30 employees, it might be more than you need right now. For 50 to 200 employees, it's worth the setup cost because it replaces manual auditing entirely. Now, next up, when to move from Power Apps to custom development. This decision comes up for most SMBs that have been on Power Platform for 2 to 3 years. At some point, the platform's limitations start creating more technical debt than the speed benefits justify. The signals that indicate it's time to consider custom .NET development. The decision isn't binary. Many SMBs run Power Apps for internal tooling and custom apps for customer-facing products. If you're at that crossroads, our comparison of no-code versus low-code versus custom software walks through the 5 factors that actually matter for the decision. Next up, governance is cheaper than cleanup. The work of setting up Power Platform governance for SMBs is front-loaded. You spend time building environment structure, writing DLP policies, and training makers before any of those things feel necessary. That's exactly why most teams skip it. But the cleanup cost compounds faster than most teams expect. What takes 4 hours to set up correctly in month 1 takes 100 hours to untangle in month 18. The technical debt doesn't just slow you down. It creates real security exposure when undocumented flows are connecting to production data with credentials nobody actively manages. If you've already accumulated debt, start with an environment audit. Export a full inventory of your apps and flows using the COE Starter Kit or the Power Platform Admin Center, identify orphaned and duplicate items, and establish the 3 environment structure before building anything new. Everything else can follow in phases. Let's talk about now. Conclusion. Power Platform governance for SMBs doesn't need to be enterprise grade to be effective. A clear environment strategy, a few DLP policies, naming conventions, and monthly admin reviews cover 90% of the risk for most small businesses. The Power Platform COE Starter Kit handles the visibility layer without requiring a dedicated governance team. Start with environments and DLP policies this week. Add the COE Starter Kit within the next 30 days. Train your citizen developers before they build, not after they've created a mess that takes months to clean up. The overhead is real, but it's a fraction of what ungoverned growth costs later. If you're not sure where your platform stands today, we can run a Power Platform governance audit and build a roadmap specific to your organization's size and risk profile. Contact us to start that conversation.